Christian Bale is going to play our villain, which is going to be fantastic. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Tessa Thompson is spilling some brand new secrets about Thor: Love and Thunder, and only ET has the exclusive details. We cannot wait to finally watch Valkyrie come back into our lives. Thor: Love and Thunder, what can you give us? Have you read the script yet?
Yeah, I've read the script. I can't tell you much, but lots of exciting text messages exchanged between Natalie and I. We're gonna have fun. You know, Taika is writing, directing, some familiar faces, some new people into the mix. Christian Bale is gonna play our villain, which is gonna be fantastic. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Big surprise, Tessa Thompson just confirmed that Christian Bale will be the main villain of Thor 4: Love and Thunder. So we got to break it down. There's a bunch of Marvel Phase 4 Easter eggs. We know a little bit about the character he's playing. So if you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We're doing a movie ticket giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your biggest theory about who Christian Bale is playing on the video. We'll just do this top 5 style, starting with number 5. If you don't know what's going on here, Tessa Thompson is in Westworld Season 3, so she was doing the premiere of that while she was answering questions about Thor 4: Love and Thunder because they're going to get ready to shoot that pretty soon. That's why all this Christian Bale talk has been happening, because they've been locking down their cast. They already know most of the characters that were coming back because a lot of them are pre-existing MCU characters. Like Tessa Thompson says, a lot of familiar faces coming back with a couple new ones, obviously Christian Bale being one of the new faces. I'll talk about the other characters that are coming back in a second, because most of you probably have a pretty good idea of which Thor characters come back. They're the same ones that come back in every single Thor movie, with a couple twists this time because of what's going on with Loki.
It took you long enough?
I had to pick up the key.
No one else needed a key.
The casting description for Christian Bale's character just says he's an intergalactic villain, and based on his history with Marvel and big franchises like this, it rules out a couple picks for who the main villain's going to be, so we'll just go down the list and cover all the things Marvel has already confirmed about Thor 4. I've seen some of your pie-in-the-sky wishes for who he would be, so number 4, a lot of you have asked me about Adam Warlock and Beta Ray Bill. Because we know from the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 post-credit scene that in true comic book fashion, Adam Warlock will start out as a villain. He's being hatched by the Sovereign to destroy the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're arguably antagonist villains in the MCU right now. His basic comic book arc was that he was created to be this space Jesus villain by an alien race, then turned against his masters, became a good character until he wasn't again because of his evil half, the Magus, taking control of his body. Kind of like a Hulk versus Banner situation with a very religious-themed space-based character. They haven't said anything about doing the Magus in the MCU, just Adam Warlock, and even though Christian Bale would be an amazing Magus, regardless, James Gunn probably wouldn't let Taika steal the character from him before he has a chance to use a version of Adam Warlock in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And the reason why Christian Bale probably isn't Beta Ray Bill, even though that would also be really cool, is because even though Beta Ray Bill and Thor fought several times in the comics, and they teased Beta Ray Bill during Thor Ragnarok, he was originally supposed to be in that movie in the Contest of Champions, his face is on the Grand Master's Tower. Beta Ray Bill is a pretty big character that it sounds like they're going to want to bring back every once in a while, and he's mostly a motion capture performance, meaning you would not be able to see Christian Bale's face. And you just know that Marvel is thirsty to put Christian Bale's face on a Thor 4 poster and say, give us all your money because we put Batman in our movie. So number 3, a lot of the Marvel comic book people over at the publishing side of things wanted to play Dario Agger, the head of Roxxon, who's a Minotaur who sold his soul to literally gain the power of a Minotaur. He can turn into a physically giant Minotaur. We also just saw Roxxon showing up on the set of the Loki TV series, and we know that Loki from that series is going to cross over with Thor 4, so it sounds like Roxxon stuff is happening during Marvel Phase 4, which means that eventually they'd have to do the Dario Agger Minotaur character. But the rest of the internet seems convinced that he should be playing a version of Gorr the God Butcher, because he's one of the few characters that could hand Thor his ass. And if you're going to be in a Thor movie, if you're going to be a threat, you have to be able to spank Thor in some way. And Gorr is just one of the few characters that can do that pretty easily with the Necro Sword. Whether or not they would use something like that in a Marvel movie, because they kind of did that with Hela's powers, even though technically they didn't call it the Necro Sword. You may remember that Christian Bale has said many times in the last 10 years since he's been playing Batman, even before he played Batman, that he had no interest in working with Marvel and hadn't even watched superhero movies outside of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies and his own Batman Dark Knight trilogy movies. In fact, he hasn't even watched all 3 of his Batman movies just because there was a tragedy that happened during the premieres of one of those that just made it too hard for him to go back and watch it after the fact. So what kind of black magic did Kevin Feige and Taika perform to convince Christian Bale to be in a big Marvel movie like this? Usually in situations like this with big actors, like Cate Blanchett is a good example, is they offer them a one-off role. It's a really big main role. They're going to be featured heavily. They'll get to have a lot of fun and do something that they've never done before. Play a big comic book villain after he got done playing one of the biggest, most iconic comic book heroes.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
So regardless of who he's playing, I just think that Christian Bale is going to be doing Thor 4 and he won't come back for any more movies after that. Another really good example is how Ryan Reynolds got Brad Pitt to do Vanisher in Deadpool 2. Brad Pitt's kids were huge Deadpool fans, so it's also possible Christian Bale's kids really like the Marvel movies. So number 2, what's the basic plot of the movie? Well, they explained a little bit of this back at Comic-Con. Taika Waititi said that while they were making Thor Ragnarok, he was reading Mighty Thor and thought that it would make for a good movie, at least the concept of the movie. They're not going to do the exact Mighty Thor comic book. He said he wasn't totally sold on the Jane Foster cancer storyline, so they might not do that part. But if Christian Bale is playing a version of Gore the God Butcher, temporarily sidelining Chris Hemsworth's Thor like he did in the comics after going after all the gods around the universe, it would create the need for another Thor. But you also have Loki coming from an alternate reality, so Loki could also be responsible through some mischief, time travel, and alternate realities for bringing about another version of Mjolnir or an alternate reality version of Jane Foster Thor. What I'm hoping, though, is that they also include Beta Ray Bill and then he goes on to star in other space-based movies, because it sounds like Marvel Cosmic Universe is spinning up in a really big way, because now Nick Fury is on the Sword space station as of the Spider-Man Far From Home post-credit scenes. We know because of the Wandavision series on Disney Plus, they're doing Sword from the comics, so it just means that a lot more space-based stuff is going to be happening in all the movies during Marvel Phase 4. Number 1 WTF, though, what about Thor as Guardians of the Galaxy? What are they going to do with that? Because clearly they were trying to set up this big quest that he was going on with them. He was going to have this existential crisis, try to figure out where his place in the galaxy was. What am I supposed to do if I'm not going to be King Thor? Number 1 on his list should be to lose all that weight, borrowing Star-Lord's Bowflex that he joked about during Infinity War. But Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 isn't happening till at least a year after Thor 4 comes out, so they're going to have to address whatever's going on with that either at the beginning of Thor in a short scene, or he's just going to have to show up on a planet saying that they dropped him off. There's a couple of funny ways that you could actually do that without having to cast all the Guardians in the movie and spend all that money just for the cameos. Before we found out that they were going to make Thor 4, I was actually hoping that they would just turn Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 into As Guardians of the Galaxy, and that would be our next Thor movie, and they would just do a Thor Ragnarok-style crossover movie.
We should fight one another for the honor of leadership.
Sounds fair.
Well, it's not necessary.
It's not.
Okay?
I got some blasters, unless you guys want to use knives.
Oh, yes, please. Use knives.
Yeah, knives.
I'm Groot.
But the really cool news is that Chris Hemsworth did say that he wanted to continue being Thor beyond Thor 4, which means him coming back during Avengers 5, but also because it's going to be a couple years before that happens, you have a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie that Thor can briefly cross over into. Early prediction, that would also be a really easy way to put Beta Ray Bill on a future Guardians of the Galaxy roster. Because if you remember the scene at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with the original Guardians from a long time ago with Sylvester Stallone and all the other characters, those alien characters are a really good example of how Beta Ray Bill would work perfectly on a Guardians team. Just super weird and super cool. So everyone, let me know in the comments, who do you think Christian Bale is playing during Thor 4? The really good news is we're finally going to get the Venom 2 trailer really soon. Also more Morbius and Spider-Man trailer videos. They're going to start shooting Spider-Man 3 really soon too. So there'll be a lot of Spider-Man and Venom related stuff happening the next couple of months. Everyone click here to learn what's going on with Hulk during Marvel Phase 4, and everyone click here to learn about the new Last of Us HBO series. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.